And I've got a rainbow single. That'll be nice. There you go. It's funny, after I only listened to 91.1. Yeah. I wanted to play a message with you upstairs. So we need, I wouldn't want where's John Hudler? He's around. So I went on Kijiji and Facebook. So I found this movie speaker. So I said, that's it. I bought it Friday. Do we want to talk about why Linda couldn't be here at all? No?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
the only thing is she was set. We would need to get no, we should
acknowledge that. The first one is
really nice. You want to say that? Mark 5 each channel. He's asking a question choice. I'm just going to talk about some on the historical issues.
Maybe the meaning of the name.
We haven't seen each other
50 years here, right? I'm having Christmas for everybody.
As soon as our kids us to go, we're going to go.
I think they're stole. No Russell.
Let's figure out what we're doing. We'll do this later.
Took the money from RJ Printers and ran. And
Try the lights out. Yeah, that's good for everybody. Everybody good with that?
I know I have no idea what this is going to be. Get a little more notice.
That's okay. All right. Okay. Do we need any intro? We're good with all this sort of stuff, aren't we? Let's just figure out what we're doing here, right? Because my name is Will McGurk, so I'm kind of like I did here at Kops, and this is Gary, who's got a fabulous exhibit coming up, Psychedelic Oshawa. These chaps here are somewhat important in our music scene, and you're going to find out why. Because Gary's going to ask you questions, and we're going to do a session here with Rain Ghost. And then we're going
Surviving
to do another
members.
session. Yeah, and then we're going to do another one with Christmas. Yeah, is that cool?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So let's get this show on the road. This is a lot of people coming in, man. It's great. It's good to see everybody. Welcome to Kops. And enough about me. Let's just go. Yeah.
How's your sound levels?
My sound is good.
Sounds good.
Dave, where's Dave? Is Dave still here? Dave's not here.
Yeah. And just monitor your phones, folks. Just try to put them on low or buzz or whatever it is that you want to do.
We don't have our mics anymore, right? So what are we using for mics? Just, is there a mic anywhere?
There's a mic there.
Right here.
Oh, all right.
And
We weren't using the PA. Is that fine? Like, just project.
Yeah, we'll just project as best we can.
Yeah.
Things look good. Yeah. Ready to go? Anytime you see me to
Anytime you're ready. Yep, it's on record.
Okay. So thanks for coming, everyone. This is the Rain Ghost panel. I'm Gary Genosko. I'm a professor at UIT in Communication Studies and the curator of the Psychedelic Oshawa exhibition, which is at the Robert McLaughlin Gallery in February 2020. So it's opening on 7th of February as part of the First Friday's celebration, so I hope you can make it. The purpose here is perhaps a little bit more academic, more historical, trying to probe some of the unknowns and remind some of our guests today about some of the things they haven't thought about perhaps in 50-odd years. But maybe they can inform us and provide us with some new information. We also want to, before I introduce everyone, I want to acknowledge that Linda Squires wanted to be here with us today and was sends her regrets, and she's feeling under the weather and is unable to attend. So we have here, first of all, on my far left, Helge Richter from Rain Ghost, from the second incarnation of Rain Ghost, drummer for Rain Ghost, Bob Bryden from the original incarnation of Rain Ghost and continuity all the way through, singer and songwriter, and John Pudlis, guitarist from the second. Am I correct? Singer-songwriter too. And singer-songwriter as well. Yeah, that's right. So, well, now let me just start with a question about how Linda and Bob left their own band, the Christopher Columbus in Search of New Lands band.
Discovery of New Lands.
Christopher
Columbus, Discovery of
New Lands band. It's one of the great mouthfuls of band names, that we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
And took the opportunity to join Rain Ghost, which already existed.
Yes.
Was a rival band, I think we could say. So the question is about the name Rain Ghost. Since none of you can take responsibility for creating it, I wonder what you thought about that name. It seems to me just a few words short of the reign of the Holy Ghost, to put it theologically.
Wow, you're going deep.
You're going deep. I told you it was going to be academic.
So what is the question again?
What is Rain Ghost? What is Rain Ghost? What is the name Rain Ghost?
Well, first of all, it's spelled R-E-I-G-N. It's
Yeah.
not like rain from the
Yeah.
sky. It's rain as in the king's reign. And it's ghost, yeah. And I actually like your metaphor or your analogy there. That's pretty interesting. But I really don't think we thought about it too much, did we?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe now I would.
Okay, now we would. Yeah, yeah.
We all wondered what it was.
It's hard to ignore if you join a band that has a name like that.
Yeah.
Well, it was better than monkeys.
Yeah. Well, I think we should have kept your name, the name you could, because I can backtrack a little bit. These two guys were already in a band as well.
Yes.
Rich and John. They were in a band called Mechanic Illusion, and I really love that name. We should have probably kept that name, but I know why we didn't, because the Rain Ghost that Linda and I joined had already developed a name around town, around Oshawa, and we just thought, well, we'll just keep the name because it's already out there, people know it. I think that's why we kept it.
And Mechanic Illusion, both of you were in the band, not Bob, but Russ Erman as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a three power trio.
You could say that.
Yeah.
You could say that. Actually, we were in a band even before that.
Oh, yeah, we were.
We were 15
66.
years old.
66. The Things.
The Things,
yeah.
right.
And we used to play at Rundle Park all the time, every Friday night.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
And the Green Door.
And the Green Door. The Green Door was on King Street East. It was a real discotheque.
Now,
European style in downtown Oshawa.
Ina Harris.
That's right.
Ina
The lady who
Harris's,
ran it.
Ina Harris's place
Mhm.
downtown. Now, would you say there's a lot of rivalry between these bands at the time? I mean, you did join another band, you sort of took the opportunity
I don't think there was any
up.
rivalry.
No? Or was
Not
it
serious
a friendly
rivalry.
was it a takeover? Was it a friendly
Takeover.
merger?
It was a hostile merger, really.
I think everybody was, most of the people were pretty good friends.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
knew everybody. And
From way back. sort of.
Yeah.
Except for the three guys in Rain Ghosts. We didn't really know them. When Linda and I joined the first Rain Ghost, let's get it
Yeah,
straight. There's
okay,
two Rain
Rain
Ghosts, right? There's the first one, which is 1968, and then there's the Rain Ghost that was Rain Ghost merging with Mechanic Illusion, which was 69.
Yeah.
But the first Rain Ghost, we didn't know those guys at all. They needed singers. Well, that was why their singer quit.
Yeah.
And they needed singers, so Linda and I decided to join.
So it was Bob and Jim Strite,
Yeah,
original members, and Dave Hare.
Dave Hare on keyboards.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just think about this spring of '69. Rain Ghost record comes out, gets a lot of coverage in the local press. Oshawa Times and Oshawa Journal covers the release.
Yeah.
But the record company, Allied,
Go ahead.
with the sub-label Paragon,
Mhm.
did not exactly
A major
do much
label?
work, did not do much work promoting the record, let's say, and
No.
pressed probably a limited number of copies. But the stable of artists that they had in that sub-label, Folklords, obviously Rain Ghost,
Plastic Cloud.
Plastic Cloud, Intersystems.
Even McKenna Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fantastic
It's a good lineup,
sub-label.
yeah.
Very, very good company. You're keeping very good company. But the production values that Bill Bessie brought from his basement studio to the production of those early records was not
State of the art.
state of the art at all.
We were recording those albums in a basement before it was cool to record it in a basement.
And we couldn't even see him. We're in a separate room.
So the records are pretty primitive, but I've learned to like them.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, you know, they had a chance to work on them again. We worked on them again. So
Yeah, there's remastered
Remastering.
versions now. Yeah, because I bought the rights
Yes. But at
from
the
Jack
time,
Boswell.
at the time, Jack Boswell was the signing of Rain Ghost was news in Billboard magazine.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was covered in the Toronto section of International Music Capitals of the World. And so Rain Ghost was getting some play outside of Oshawa media, with getting international media, so to speak, at least American media, the business on the business side of.
We should say who Jack Boswell was. He was the president of Allied.
Jack Boswell was the president of Allied, and Bill Bessie was a former CBC announcer.
Country
bi-
DJ.
Country DJ Bill Bessie, who was a producer.
Cousin Bill Bessie.
Yeah, and that's essentially his claim to fame. Now, Jack Boswell was telling everyone at the same time, announcing the signing of Rain Ghost, that he was negotiating with a shock rock group to bring into the fold for the label. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
What's that?
I don't know. I was wondering if you knew anything
No,
about it.
I don't know about any shock rock band back then.
Yeah, it seems like an odd, other than Alice Cooper, nothing comes to mind.
Yeah.
So, part of the interest for me historically is the transition from the folk scene to the psych rock scene. And a couple of places that were mentioned, like the Green Door, Coffee and Discotheque, the Bushel Basket in Whitby, and Gandalf's in Whitby, the Gandalf Tea House as well. Yeah. Certainly, those are important venues, but the folk scene was fairly vibrant, and then the psych scene began. Your bands began playing in those venues, and so I guess there was a kind of displacement of the folk scene that took place in the late '60s.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody kind of went electric. That was it, you know. Maybe it started with Dylan going electric, I don't know, but a lot of people I know from that era are now playing electric and have been for a long, long time. But they started as more or less, you know, folkies.
Yeah, it was a pure acoustic folk I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, and there was a lot of traditional folk around here too. Traditional, Jeremy Dormouse, Chris Cuddy.
Yes. Yes, and I think Linda's Roots is in that scene.
Yeah.
Linda's Roots are.
She's on an album called Jeremy Dormouse, and she sings 2 songs on that, I think, and that was done in Whitby, and it's a folk album, and it's very rare.
I think that at the time with the Trent University just opening in Peterborough, it was also a place where they could do some rudimentary recording in the language labs, in addition to the recordings that were made in living rooms and basements in Whitby. I don't think anything was recorded live at any of those venues that I mentioned.
I don't think so. Not that I know.
It would be highly unlikely.
This was pre-tape. No one.
Yeah.
We didn't even have cassette decks back then.
The other piece of the puzzle of Jeremy Dormouse is a shifting ensemble of musicians around Chris Cuddy and a few others. But there's also the Rejects LP that was a private pressing of an LP that really represents one of the lost artifacts of the folk scene in this region.
Yeah, I have no idea about that.
And Bob gave me a copy of a magazine, which we may talk about later, called Narc, which was a 4-page magazine that was produced by a group of merry prankster-ish youth in Oshawa called the Raspberries. And in conjunction with the St. George's Anglican Church.
Yeah.
And there's an advertisement for the Rejects LP that's being given away at the Drop-In Youth Drop-In Center.
Yeah.
So that is an artifact worth thinking about and trying to find. When I talked about the rivalry in the music scene, I didn't mean suggest there was any hostility or real animosity there, but certain bands really stood out. And I know that Bob's talked to me about Moses.
Yeah, Moses
Earlier
were
today
amazing.
mentioned Moses
Yeah.
as one of his key reference points.
Yes, because if you look at those posters from the Oshawa 69 and 70 rock show, I think,
Yeah.
one of them has the two headliners as Rain Ghost and Moses, and the next one has Christmas and Moses as the
Yeah.
headliners.
Yeah.
And Moses were really, really good. Pete Bailey and
Andy Gondak.
Andy Gondik and Joe Gallant. They were amazing. Great songwriter, Andy Gondik.
And Joe Gallant ends up as this person who provides the artwork for the first Christmas album.
Yeah. He hung out with us a lot. Christmas.
He was a bass player.
He was a bass
Yeah.
player
Yeah.
in his own right, yeah. And an artist.
Very interesting. So I'm just thinking back, the artwork on the first Rain Ghost album.
It's an original copy, be very careful.
So the artwork by a certain M. Platt.
Oh, yeah. Mark.
Could you explain who M. Platt
Well, you weren't on that one.
was?
No.
Do you remember anything about him?
No.
No, neither do I.
You remember nothing? I think you're holding back on us.
He was a friend of a friend who knew how to paint. And he, obviously, we commissioned him to do that.
Friend of a friend.
Right? Something like that.
Oshawa based?
In the area, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the backs of the sleeve,
Yeah.
which we should note, this remarkable photograph by a certain Jack Umpleby.
Right. Do
Is
we
this
want
a
to know who he
made-up
really
name?
is? That's Jack Boswell's cover name as a photographer.
I thought so.
Yeah.
And this
Head of Allied.
And this very ornate staircase is
In Yorkville.
in Yorkville.
That's right.
Ah,
Yorkville.
right.
And during the Yorkville, heyday. here.
Okay, okay. Well, that really helps me put into context this whole.
I still haven't been able to find exactly where that staircase is anymore. I went in to find it one day and I couldn't.
It's probably gone.
It's probably
This
gone.
ornate ironwork
Yeah.
is probably salvaged. Probably sold off as an architectural heritage item. The other-
Probably in somebody's house on the bridle path.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all. The one thing that really strikes me in listening to Rain Ghost is that there's the theatrical element, the stage voice. There is a wonderful, obviously Bob has a background in community theater from his earliest days.
I had a background at the time of Rain Ghost. I had a background in public speaking. It was later that I got into theater.
You were a public speaking prize winner.
I won some prizes.
When you were in a tween.
Sir Thomas Becket.
That's it. Oh man.
Good minds.
And there was another one, Werner von Braun. I did the Nazi who designed the rockets for Hitler. Yeah, good choice. Anyway, I was going to say something to you which is a bit classic. As Gary indicated, Linda Squires was going to be here, and we actually rehearsed 3 Rain Ghost songs about a week and a half ago, but then she got very, very ill, so unfortunately she couldn't be here. But she reminded me of something I'd completely forgotten, and she said to me, do you remember where we met? And I thought it was going to be like Oshawa Catholic High School or something, because we were classmates. She said, I said, no, where did we meet? She said, you beat me in a public speaking contest. And I didn't remember that.
Friendly
Remember that.
rivalries.
Yes, friendly rivalries. Yeah, well, she did become my friend in spite of that.
Well, there is obviously her future was going to be in musical theater
Yeah,
and not in rock.
yeah, she went on to Hair.
And
Me
went
nobody
on to
knows.
Hair, exactly. And so that stage voice that really comes through in the early albums
Mhm.
really rings out and animates those songs. I mean, underneath this very kind of psychedelic writing at times. And I think that the songs there's the blues side of Rain Ghost, and there's the psych side of Rain Ghost, and there's the stage voice side, all working together.
Thank you.
Very interesting mix, and it's a unique, I think a genuinely unique, effect comes from that synergy, which is an unusual combination to be in a band. So who are the blues folks in the band? John?
More than I.
Yeah.
You were a fan of Iron Butterfly.
I was.
And
Inagata Davida.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Yeah.
You should hear Rain Ghost. What is it? Enola Gay. How's that? You remember?
Enola Gay,
Yeah. How's that go?
Da, 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 da.
It was very similar.
Very
to
similar to
Inagata
Inagata
Davida.
Davida, yeah.
But we didn't care.
You wrote it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Who wrote it?
Russ.
Russ?
Yeah, and
Oh,
you,
Russ
I think.
did, yeah.
Look at-
No, I didn't
Who's
have
on
anything
Enola
to do with
Gay?
that. I sang in it, but
That's Russ's.
Russ's.
Yeah.
Russ's.
yeah.
Russ's. And John is Bread Box. John.
Yeah, More Than I.
Mother's Got Troubles.
Mother's Got Troubles. Pudsy's Parable.
Pudsy's Parable.
Yeah.
So that
They're all great songs.
Yeah.
They're still great songs.
So the distribution of songwriting though was quite wide in
Yeah,
terms of the
and
band.
on the
Everyone was
second album,
contributing.
yeah.
On the second album especially, that's the case.
Yeah.
As things unfold, when we talk about Christmas, we'll see the songwriting responsibilities are falling onto Bob's shoulders
At the beginning.
at the beginning. But here you have in this iteration of Rain Ghost, because this is a separate iteration of Rain Ghost. in a
Yeah.
way.
Second Rain Ghost.
Yeah, the second Rain Ghost. There's a lot of shared songwriting. Now, this particular photograph on the cover by former manager Ralph Clay.
That's right.
Some
I
of you may
remember more about
remember
him.
Ralph.
I remember him more than I do Mark Platt.
I think there's a few stories about Ralph Clay that need to be told.
Not really. He was our manager, but he was one of those managers you have when your band's just starting and struggling, and really, he wasn't a manager. He was not connected to anybody or anything. He was just a fan.
I think he was a con man.
He could have been a con man or a con fan. He was a con fan.
there
Anyway.
was Ralph Clay.
There was no. This is.
This
it on that?
This is Christmas. Isn't it?
No, no.
No,
Great.
Ralph was.
He was around for that album.
Ralph this is the cover photo that is attributed to Ralph, and there's a black and white version, which is a promotional photograph,
Yeah.
that is included in the reissue of this record, and it really is I think, one of the best shots of the band.
Thank you. That's good.
And I wanted to point out that this particular image, though, was used by Monique Brent, the Bowmanville painter, to contribute a painting to the exhibition Psychedelic Oshawa. So this was her foundational reference point. So that piece will appear in February, and it's quite a wonderful piece in which there is floating pieces of gold around the heads of the members of the band, and a psychedelic tie-dye field in the background.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, we were angels.
Yeah, weren't we though?
Oh.
We could be so kind.
But the obscure reference here to Boris Karloff perhaps needs to be
Karloff.
Karloff?
Karloff.
Karloff needs to
Harvey
be
John.
excavated.
I would miss him, the
What is-
vocals.
Harvey John.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
we did, that was Enola Gay for Halloween, I guess.
Birthday.
Yeah.
He did this Doug Ingle Iron Butterfly thing,
Yeah.
and it was very
Ah.
Boris Karloff.
I'm surprised we didn't get sued.
You know, it did sound a lot like Iron Butterfly. We never got big enough to be sued.
No, that's true.
You only get sued if you're big.
Blood from a stone.
Isn't there a story about Ralph Clay and a certain camping trip gone wrong? Someone has been-
Yeah, I did mention that, but to you. Should I go public with that?
It's your
Perhaps.
call, Rich.
Perhaps.
You can edit this.
Perhaps we can just edit it down to the
Alright.
experience.
Okay, I'm not proud of what happened. Okay? Now, we were playing somewhere in cottage country that night. And after the show, we did some drugs. And we were getting a little bit too stoned to drive home, and it was getting dark, so we decided, I don't know how we had a tent, but we had a tent. When we decided to go to a campground. And all the families and everything, they'd already pitched their tents, they're already sleeping. So we pull in late at night, we pitch a tent, and we're all starting to get off on the drugs we're doing. And all I remember is Ralph Clay standing in the middle of the tent hanging onto the pole all night long. And he never done acid in his life before. And we were all just laughing at him all night long. And you can imagine all the other people around us. Like, I mean, we didn't even kind of, do you remember this?
No.
No? Anyways.
There's a few trips I don't remember.
Okay, so long story short, daylight was coming up, so we figured, well, we better get out of here before people start really hurting us, because we were making a lot of noise. And so we packed up and we took off. I don't know if you were there or not.
Maybe not. That sounds like something I'd remember.
Yeah, I think so. Who else was there with me that's in this room?
Tyler remembers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
You remember that, Tyler?
Yeah, it was Kobacon.
Kobacon, right, right.
We're
There
gonna
was something about chasing
We're gonna
sheep in there.
segue
I don't
to
know
Well,
that.
I remember the sheep. I do.
But we'll leave that out.
Okay, we'll leave that later, for later.
So I have here, courtesy of Bob, quite a rare Rain Ghost single, 7-inch single, Long Day Journey, which he performed earlier today, and
Fuzzy's Parable?
Parable.
Parable, yeah.
Man, I didn't even know that was a single.
Oh, come on.
Well, this single is notable for a number of different reasons. The first is that it's in stereo.
It would have been one of the first stereo
It was
singles.
probably one of the first stereo singles issued
Yeah. We were so progressive.
in Canada, even though the recording process was not particularly sophisticated.
Well, we should say though that the sound on the second Rain Ghost album is an improvement.
Is an improvement.
Yeah. Cousin Bill was really getting to know his stuff.
And that this was one of the reasons why Rain Ghost signing was news for Billboard readers. Was that this, in a sense, technical aspect of the single and the record, that it was stereo, was quite significant.
Really, they promoted that, huh?
They promoted that.
Wow.
Or at least they
Who
talked that up, as opposed to the content, the musical content. So I think that was where Paragon and Allied wanted to go, instead of knowing what to do with the artist that they had signed. And I think you probably will corroborate my statement that it was a bit of a difficult marriage working with those.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe we should mention what Allied were mainly known for, and that was Allied, well, how we got signed with Allied. I was in the disc shop at the Oshawa Center, which was, I think, the only record store then.